Please rise and join us for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much for coming tonight. If you would like to speak at any point in the meeting on the action items or the public comments at the end, please make sure that you sign up on the sheet in the back. That is how you'll be able to give whatever comments you'd like. We will start with our agenda approvals, additions, deletions with Mr. Bracco, or Dr. Bracco. Sorry.
Thank you, Mrs. Lessington. We do have some revisions under my item. There's a revised professional leave request. We also put the full name of the subdivision under Roman numeral 7A3, Morning Crest. Mrs. Mucha has some revisions to her personnel packet, and we scratched from Mr. James Roman numeral 7H7 a duplicate professional leave request. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Move to approve by Ms. Suze. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Malkow. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next is correspondence. Ms. Suze, do we have any correspondence?
There is none tonight.
All right, thank you so much. Moving on to liaison committees. We'll start with Mr. Marshall.
Thank you, Sandy. We have our Westlake joint meeting scheduled for January 2019. That's the next meeting at the School Town of Munster at 4 p.m. Nothing to report on personnel interviews.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. And Dr. Malkow.
Let's see, Lake Central Education Foundation, we met the other night and we're always looking for ideas to make money so we can give out more scholarships and grants, I should say grants, to teachers to enhance enrichment in their classrooms. So if you have any ideas or if you would like to serve on the Lake Central Education Foundation, please let us know. We'd be honored to have you join our team. And legislatively, we're going to have to do some regrouping because we have different representatives now after the elections. So we will, I think Dr. Bracco is going to reach out to them, and then we'll try to schedule a meeting probably sometime in late December, early January. Okay, thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Ms. Suze?
There's nothing for Dollars for Scholars, and the St. John Redevelopment Committee meeting is on the 29th. So,
okay,
perfect. After that.
Thank you. And for myself, Cherville Redevelopment, there's nothing to report at this time. They did have a meeting, but nothing that involves us. And for Wellness Committee, we met last week, and we talked about the flu shots. Those were given at all of our, or at 3 of our schools. That had very high results. We talked about, we sent out a survey to find out, we do a, what is our health fair? Health fair. We do a health fair, and we were trying to determine how often would we like to do it for our staff. And we weren't sure if it was going to be every 2 years, every 3 years, 5 years. And the survey results came back, and 374 people answered, and the majority, 60% of people said they'd like to see that every 2 years. And we thought that was really phenomenal to make sure that we're focusing on wellness for our staff and for our community. So that was very good. We're looking at a winter challenge that will be coming up in February, so we'll talk a little bit more about that as that comes up. And currently we are working on some mental and emotional health, like positive phrases that we can use so that we can let people be aware of these situations and of ways that they can get help for emotional health and reach out to people, things like that, because we felt that that was very important. So that's what we're currently working on. So that's Wellness Committee. And then Mr. Boxo is not here, so that will complete liaison committee updates. So now for official school board business items, our consent agenda with Dr. Bracco.
Thank you again. We do need board approval of the minutes from both our November 5th executive session and November 5th regular meeting, and then seek board approval for the claims, payroll, and extracurricular expenditures that were included in your packet last week.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Marshall. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Malkow. Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. All these in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Who's next?
Jeannie, if there are any public
Oh,
comments?
I'm sorry. Are there any public comments, Jeannie? None? None at this time? Okay. Hearing none at this time, we will move on with our Director of Human Resources.
No,
Oh,
we're
I'm
gonna
sorry,
go to-
sorry. To our official school board business topics. We're with you.
Yeah, so we're going to reconvene in front. We're fortunate to have both of our principals from Kaler and their coaches here tonight. And so after we convene in the front, we'll ask Mr. Newton and Mr. Doyle to kick off the special recognition of our cross-country teams from Kaler.
I see.
We are extremely excited at Kaler. We had a fantastic cross-country season, both our girls team and boys. They won their conference team, and they also were conference champions, which is a credit to our students, also a credit to our coaches, to motivate and energize over 100 students to run quite a bit throughout the week and months. Quite the accomplishment, and they did a great job. So at this time, I would like to have our boys coaches come down, Mr. Mark Langlois and Mr. Dave Silver. If I could also have the members of our boys cross country team, you guys can come down and go form a line over here. What we're going to do, we're going to call the names of the members of the boys team. You guys can stay put, and then at the very end, we'll have to go through and shake the hands of the board members.
Yeah, all right, I'm going to just go ahead and call up the guys' names. I'm not sure who's not here and who is here, and I'm also very nervous right now. Okay, some I do know are here. Okay, is Andrew here? I don't believe so. Andrew Jackson Boshears, Cal Bowman, Mateo Contreras, Alex Correa, Jack Correa, Jacob Cox, Mason Duda, Parker Engel, Roberto Escovi, Roman Garza, Tyler Garrickson, Greg Gertler, Julio Hirma, Nick Iannucci, Joey Iannucci, Aiden Illick, Justin Karina, Luke Larson, Nolan Letty, Drew McGrath, Jason McLarson, Hamza Muhuddin, Ryan Morris, Charlie Newton, Roger Ochea, Noah Pettit, Dominic Rizzo, Patrick Ryan, Sam Ryan, Caleb Schmale, Brady Schoen, Jacob Schmale, Jacob Smith, Michael Sikowski, Joseph Tan, Max Tennicott, Nathan Tennicott, Max Texter, Owen Thompson, Anthony Tertillanelli, sorry about mispronouncing that, and Garrett Van Hosen. And 3 more. Nick Boyer, Ryan Watson, I know Ryan's here, and Henry Warner.
We had such a great turnout with the cross-country team that we actually had to hire 2 additional coaches, which is a great challenge and problem to have. So definitely appreciate their participation. Once again, credit to the coaches. If I can have the appearance of our boys team, please stand. Next up, if I could have Chris Gaines come on down, the girls coach. welcome her this year was Denise Kelly.
I'm not nervous, and I'm in front of an open mic. I just want to say thanks a lot to all of you parents for all that you did. I don't need this microphone. Because we can't be a great team without all of you guys being willing to bring your kids to practice. And I know we nickel and dime you to death throughout the whole season, but the truth is that's why they come out, because, you know, they love popsicles and they love all the really stupid games that we do, and that's why we had 54 girls out, and that's amazing if 54 girls willing to run basically 4 to 5 miles every day. So, great. And in case you didn't know, this is our second year as undefeated conference champions. The most exciting part of it all would be of those, there are only 11 of the 54 girls who are in 8th grade. So most of these girls are going to come back. They were first place in the B team, which would be like our JV equivalent at the state meet at the end of the season. So I certainly am not going to be resigning this year.
If I can get the girls team, please come on out.
Isabella Anderson, Lily Banowski, Jasmine Baranski, Brianna Berlangeri, Sydney Chirilla, Grace Collard, Ava Contreras, Sophia Contro, Kirsten Cortez, Sophia DeMontes, Landry Brune, Peyton Erickson, Maura Plawley, Orla Finger, Sophia Garibay, Ava Giovanni, Tajir Kaur, Natalie Kransky, Isabella Kruger, Scarlett Letty, Ava Lenz, Kylie Leffler, Nora Markley, Lacey Mason, Nia Matthews, Riley Malosnik, Devin Moore, Danielle Moore, Aubrey Morales, Peyton Morris, Olivia Muncie, Marjo Pama, Desiree Picasso, Erin Costello, Ella Puga, Leo Rocha, Vanessa Rogers, Addison Roth, Rebecca Salazar, Tara Schatzberger, Emily Smith, Amanda Spanier, Leah Stanich, Elizabeth Tochi, Amanda Todd, Macy Urbanski, Isabel Urbanski, Victoria Van Horsen, Nicole Bolrath, Riley Walczek, Maddie Walczek, Bailey Weslowski, and Jill Wright. Okay, I think I left mine. Thank you. Thank you.
If I can please have the parents of the girls team please stand.
So we're going to go on and conduct some other school board business. Those of you who have homework to do or other things you need to get to, this is a good time to leave. You're certainly all welcome to stay, but I know some of you need to get moving, so this is a good time to go.
Yeah, summer awful.
54 girls, that's a lot of kids.
I only have a 2-day week. Tomorrow's my Friday. Yeah, it is. That's great.
54?
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, it's so good to see you.
I think they can help.
She taught in high school at Griffin when I was at Griffin. But her was my dentist.
Yeah, Munster, you had, 5 different schools there, plus our 3 schools.
That's right.
And they were 1 through 5.
So anything to start this back up? Or do you just start with wherever you're at?
Usually Don will chop it in and just say we're going to continue now.
Okay.
Just give them a couple more minutes.
Yeah. You just didn't write down how I'm supposed to do that.
I see Jerry's growing a beard, huh?
No shave November.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, go ahead.
We're going to go ahead and continue with Dr. Bracco.
Thank you. I do have a couple professional leave requests. First, for Dr. Malcolm and myself to attend the Indiana State Summit on Career Pathways. That's December 12th in Indianapolis. So seek board approval on that item.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. And my second one is also for Dr. Malcolm, myself, and Mrs. Suze to attend the Indiana School Board Association School Law Seminar. That's a one-day seminar on December the 14th in Indianapolis.
Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Marshall, second? Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Seuss. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. My next item is to open for any discussion from the board, our recommendation that the Morning Crest subdivision be assigned to the Grimmer-Watson Elementary Middle School District. We are down to 0 empty classrooms at Coling, 1 lab that can be converted to a classroom, so I guess actually 1 classroom. And so as these new neighborhoods come online, we've made a commitment that anytime it is more than 25 homes, that we will consider placing them where we have space. And so I've included in your packet those items that we look at to try to determine where to go. You may recall that recently we had the Walden Clearing subdivision, which is just south of this new subdivision, also assigned to Watson Grimmer. And so I'd open it at this time for the board, should they have any comments about these district assignments.
Dr. Bracco, can you remind the crowd where this subdivision will be, the Morning Crest?
Yeah, this is on Klein Avenue, just north of 93rd and just east of North Point.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
And what was the other subdivision that we did earlier?
Walden Clearing.
And so with both of those subdivisions being routed to Grimmer-Watson, okay, number-wise, room-wise?
Well, there are no homes built yet, so,
Well,
over the course of the next 3 or 4 years, as those neighborhoods fill in, then we'll get a clearer picture of how many people have children who are moving into those neighborhoods. And thus far, we've avoided pushing anybody to Pfeiffer on account of the tree farm being in Pfeiffer's territory.
so then the builder will know in advance that it's Grimmer-Watson, so that will be listed on, how they usually have those signs out there. So
Yeah, and I spoke to Mr. Lance already. I told him I would, pass it by you before he gets the certified letter from me saying that it's official. But it makes sense for us right now, before we consider any classroom additions or any construction to fill the rooms we have across the district.
I think it makes good sense to notify them well in advance that that's the plan.
Yeah, and they have streets in, but they're just starting the home side, just like Walden Clearing.
Excellent. Any other questions?
I have one about on 77th. Is that a Dyer subdivision?
That's already Watson. It's in the Watson
That's a
territory
Watson.
already, yeah.
What's
Yeah.
the name of that subdivision?
I don't know the name of that. I just pulled it up on the Geo site and saw that it was within the current Watson boundary, so
Okay.
I
Do you
didn't
know
have
how
to
many
deal with
homes are
it.
going in that one?
I do not. They just started moving dirt there
Right.
a month ago or so.
Okay, all right, thank you.
We're going to have to watch this closely, though, because if we have 30 classrooms in the other 5 elementary schools, they could fill up quickly.
Yeah. Maybe we should hold on to those portable buildings.
They're not fit to be lived in.
Then we'll buy new ones, huh?
We'd have to rent new
You're
ones,
within
yeah.
slapping distance of me.
Yeah, I had to live through
I'm
those
just
portable.
saying.
Well, sometimes the growth happens
Right,
fast,
I
and
know,
schools
I know.
don't have a choice but
That's right.
it's the best solution in the short term. And as we've talked before, having gone to the taxpayer twice in the last 8 years, until we're ready to possibly refinance a piece of the debt for the high school Protzman project, we're going to have to, fill everything we can for the next 3 years.
Sure. We can make
Excellent.
them work.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I will send that letter to Mr. Lance tomorrow. My next item is to give the board an ISMA update. At the last meeting, I sought permission to participate as a state board of director member. And the last time that I've been involved with something in Indianapolis was the IPLI program that for me ended 3 years ago, and I gave them a 2-year commitment. Just to fully disclose, I thought that's what I was doing on this, but when I got there, I found out it was a 3-year commitment. But I did have the accurate number of meetings. It is 4 meetings per year. 2 of them are local meetings here during the evening, and 2 are all-day meetings in Indianapolis. So it is a 2-day-a-year commitment to go to Indianapolis. Some interesting information for the board and community. ISMA has a $2 million annual budget, and they currently have about $909,000 in reserves. The state board regularly reviews contest rules for both marching band and solo ensemble, and that's sort of what the board of directors has to wade through, because a lot of directors have ideas for making things better, and sometimes it makes it better for all, and sometimes it makes it better for them. And that's why the state board exists, so that people can debate these things and work it out. Interestingly enough, at both the local meeting last week, or 2 weeks ago, and then the state meeting last week, the graduation pathways is one of their biggest concerns. And they're worried that as students aren't making it through the standardized test loop, that they're afraid that schools are going to make these students give up an elective so that they can take an additional math class, and they are fearful that it will cost them students in their music electives. I don't see that being a huge impact for us, but I could see it in rural schools that only have a 6-period day.
Right.
Because if you only have 6 options and you're trying to get to 40 credits, you don't have a lot of wiggle room, and so you would lose an elective as a junior or senior if you're trying to get your math skills up or something. I also learned that they conduct contests at 120 different sites per year, with over 200,000 student participants. That's over nearly 20% of our student population in the state, which is pretty darn good. They also need 1,200 judges per year, and for marching band, they do not use in-state judges because they're too biased.
Yeah.
So they have to go out of state to get judges who don't have friends who are marching band directors in Indiana. In 1999, a little piece of history, the ISMA broke off from being a principal-sponsored activity, but when they did that, they decided that they probably should keep a little bit of administrative flavor on the committee, and so they did. Each of the 8 zones has 4 representatives on the committee, and of the 4, 1 is an administrator. The other people down there were all principals, with the exception of me. But they had a couple hot topics. I think the biggest one was that many of the bands in Central Indiana think it's a disadvantage at the state competition to go early in the contest, to go first, if you will, second, third, fourth, fifth, that early in the morning is not as good. They didn't really have data to correlate that schools get a lower rating if they go early. But what they heard from those of us at the extreme ends of the state were, if you're in the far north or the far south, not only do you have, you know, a solid 3 hours on the bus, but you lose an hour with the time change. I was kind of surprised that those arguments fell on deaf ears with a lot of those representatives, because, and I sort of respect that they're competitive, because I know they put a lot of time in and try to do really well, but I think that it could backfire if bands don't have a lot of resources to spend the night in a hotel, and they say you drew the 6 o'clock or 6:30 start, so you need to be here by 5. For us, that means we'd have to get on a bus at 1 a.m., which doesn't make any sense. And from talking to our band director, it's about a $74,000 bill to stay in a hotel for one night with the size of our group.
How much is it?
$74,000.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, wow.
Well,
So anyway, that debate just, it could probably go on forever, and we were there till 4:30, which is, they said, was the longest meeting they've ever had. But that topic got really hot. And the other thing we spent a couple hours on was, in solo and ensemble, they have some pretty strict guidelines for the percussion group, that they have to demonstrate proficiency in what they call rudiments. I think there are different types of, I played a horn, so different types of scales, in other words. And the argument was, other than the top class, should they really have to demonstrate all this stuff? Because the top class are the kids who intend to play in college, or they could be music majors and so forth. For all those other students, especially those in the bottom couple of classes, what if they just, you know, play the music the way it's written and didn't have to demonstrate several different types of percussion during the thing? And it was interesting to listen to. The arguments for were mainly that the reason our drum lines have gotten so good in Indiana, and why kids can go in other states and make collegiate bands or be music majors, is because the higher standards. On the other hand, there were many directors from the smaller schools saying, if they themselves are not percussionists, if their students don't have a private instructor, they can't coach them, if you will, up to that level, so that they can even go to the state, even in Division 4 or 5. And so they feel like we're limiting the number of students who can participate, which obviously nobody in that room or this room would want to do. You want to have as many kids participate as possible. But it swirled, it went in circles, and in the end, they kicked it down the road for another year. On the controversial marching band piece of the Central Indiana schools wanting to just have a blind draw out of a hat of who goes first, our committee from Northwest Indiana, the 3 directors, voted against it. And I don't know if they are angry with me, but I voted for it because voting for it pushed it back to the marching band committee so that they could discuss it more. And I thought it was important that those people who die for marching band would take that topic and manipulate it, because the state board has an interesting concept. If they vote for something the first time, then it goes to the marching band or solo ensemble committee, then it goes back to the zones, then it comes back and has to be voted on a second time by the state board for it to be a rule change. And I just thought, there were people in the room saying, you know, we can never even get it to the zones. So how do we know how, you know, the broadband, the state board votes this idea down every time of having the blind draw. We think that it should get out to all the zones and let everybody, you know, be more democratic and let them have an opinion. And I felt like, well, what is the harm if it goes to the marching band committee, then back to the zones and back to us if you feel strongly enough. If the vote were that day, the second vote, I would have voted no. because it mightily hurts people in North and South. But nonetheless, it's interesting. They're passionate. I think they can be a little bit stubborn, like every other organization. But the leadership is definitely all about, the ISSMA leadership, the executive directors are definitely all about students participating at the highest level possible and with the most students possible. And so, yeah, it's interesting. I did not know they had that many participants, nor did I realize the size of their budget. You know, every year spending over $2.3 million to have students achieve greatness in music. So it was interesting. Any questions about that?
Who are the executive directors now?
It's Mick Bridgewater, and I don't know the other two guys. I only met them for the first time.
Full-time staff members there.
They have 3 music people and 2 support staff. They run it pretty lean.
Okay.
Well, very lean. They have a couple other people who help them find judges for marching band, which is a huge job, because you know in the regional and semi-state they have multiple sites, so they have to fly these people or transport them in and pay travel for more than one weekend, and it just feels like I'll use the analogy of. When you watch basketball on TV and some coaches seem to argue calls more than others, I mean, you just get the feeling that people think that the judges are biased based on how tired they are or what state they're from. And you just wonder at some point, you know, with what we're doing in our bands now in Lake Central, where the students have assignments and they have to play and the computer rates them based on whether they played the right note and if they held the note for the proper amount of time. The right number of beats, quarter note, half note, or whatever. And if you wonder if at some point they'll be able to have microphones that can pick up the music and rate that portion of it, because it seems like that's the portion that they feel like they get ripped off on, because some of the judges go flying through the ranks of the marchers and some just stay on the outskirts because they don't have enough confidence that they're going to be able to not knock down a student or get run over themselves. But anyway, interesting debates, and so just wanted to update the board so you know what I'm involved with. And they're passionate people, so you agree with some of what they say and not some of what they say, but they're interested in helping their kids. I just think it's important that everybody weigh the good of the group versus the good of just their school.
I think it's good exposure too. I mean, you're going to learn and bring that back, and that's good.
Absolutely. Anybody else? No? Okay.
Okay, thank you. My next item is just to update the board on the Stop Arm Initiative that was last week with organized with the Flores brothers mainly, Detective Steve from St. John and Christian, our transportation director. And I think I mentioned to the board at least that over the past couple years we've had documented 50 2 years ago where the drivers were actually stopped, and while someone blew their stop arm, they're actually able to turn and see the license plate, write down a quick description of the vehicle and the license number. The police then got that when they were in between their routes. They called the police from the transportation center, and if the description matched that car, they were able to write tickets. Last year, the number went up to 52, and this year, as of a couple weeks ago, we were at 40 already. That does not include all the people who blew the stop arms where the driver was actually in motion. Still, they hadn't come to a stop, so they couldn't really turn to try to document this thing. When I asked Christian about who are the drivers, they tend to be the same drivers in certain parts of town where they have more problems, but those drivers also are more irritated by it happening more frequently. That's why they have their pad ready and they're ready to nail somebody. So we did put police on a bus in each 3 towns last week. We also had 2 extra squads from each town out there so that if somebody blew the bus stop arm, they could just radio their friend in the squad immediately. They could pull the car over and write them a ticket on the spot. We are happy to say that we had 0 violations in the morning. We did have 2 violations in the afternoon, one in Dyer, one in St. John. And hopefully, as I said in the message to our families, if the word gets out in the community, and if we all just become a little more cognizant of not being in such a rush, hopefully this thing can become a piece of the past and we stop this. The police, before they did this last one, agreed that they would do it occasionally, similar to setting up speed traps just to keep people honest. So I don't know if 2 in a day is a good or a bad number. I consider it a good number. But you know, ultimately I hope it ends up being 0.
Do you know how many stops we have where kids have to actually cross across traffic?
I don't know that, and I think that what some of the drivers have reported to Christian is that there are people, you could say they're being a little more careful. They stop behind the bus, but when they see the student walking up on the same side, so the door opens to their sidewalk, and they see the kids walking that way, then they go around the bus.
Oh, I wouldn't have even thought of that.
But it's still a violation because the arm's
Right.
out, and they're
Yeah.
supposed to stay behind that bus. So, and then some people, I think, are just honestly reckless, and
Right.
they think they're going to pass the bus before the door opens, so they'll beat the kid, even if the kid is crossing the street. But after what happened in Rochester, I hope that our people pay closer attention to what's going on, and if they get a couple $100 ticket, hopefully that message, you know, permeates our community and it ends.
Right.
So.
If the bus driver writes down the license number and calls it in, the police can't ticket them on that, can they?
If the
If
description,
it wasn't observed
if-
directly by the,
if the description of the vehicle
Like it says
matches
on
the
the rest.
license number, they have done it.
because prosecutors down around central Indiana are not doing that because the prosecutors are not wanting to do it, which is why they've all invested in the stop arm cameras. It's actually on the stop arm the camera is, because the prosecutors would not prosecute them. So, interesting. But up here, they're willing to do it.
Well, I don't know if they get challenged. Maybe Jerry can address that. I know that they've been writing
They're
them.
writing the tickets for that.
Okay.
We've done it in all 3 towns. So
Even on,
whether they were pulled or not, I couldn't tell you that right now.
oh, whether,
But
so
we are
when,
writing the tickets. We are stopping them right now.
so yeah, so you don't know the outcome once it's sent to the prosecutor, if he's gonna move forward with it or not?
Correct.
Okay. And that's where those stop arms on the, or the cameras on the stop arms are so important.
Have we checked into that, Larry?
We
Do
are
know?
checking into it right now.
Dr. Veracco, Rob and I did check into that with Christian this morning, and it is an option available on the buses. It's too late for our new buses. The buses come with a security camera system already in it. To add on, they have 2 options. One is one camera on the stop arm for $280, and the other is for $320. It gives you both directions. As Dr. Veracco said, one direction is more common than the other. That's why it's just one. But you can get that, and Christian's going to talk to the...
Is it DVR for the same length of time as the
yeah, it
bus?
works with,
Cameras?
exactly. And it
Yeah.
goes
It's
in
not that much
motion when
money.
the arm is...
Right, not at all.
When the arm is put out, it automatically turns on the camera, and it puts it into the server on the bus. He's getting one up here now. In the next, hopefully after Thanksgiving, he's going to do some tests on the bus.
Right.
Okay.
So then he'll probably come and report back to that.
And if that's something that we find is useful, even if we pilot them on some of the busier roads, you know, maybe not the buses, I don't know, maybe it's subdivisions, maybe it's not the busier roads, I'm not sure, but I'm sure you'll know with.
And they can be
They,
added on
they
to
said
any
it
bus,
is,
so-
there are certain routes where it happens much more frequently.
So maybe that's where we start those cameras to see if it's helpful, things like that. Excellent.
So are those, I think the cameras on the stop arm, if you order the bus with the camera on it, are about $2,000. Do you know how expensive these add-ons are?
No, the camera system on the buses they come now is $2,000. The add-on cameras is either $280 for one or $320 for the other.
The expensive
And
cameras are,
they just tie into the existing server on the bus, on a port.
But that's it?
That's it.
Yeah.
There's nothing in addition to that that it would need?
No, you're just basically paying for the camera because the infrastructure and the server is already on the bus.
Right.
You're just paying for the additional hardware for the camera or cameras if you go for
Perfect.
2.
Okay, so next.
So they're relatively,
it would have to reduce the number of days that you're storing though if you're.
that's
loading
correct,
cameras.
because you're adding more storage to the hard drive and everything else.
I'm
That's
sorry, I
correct.
missed what you said, but
If you go from 2 to 4 cameras per bus, you won't have the storage of the video as long.
You're collecting more data.
Without
because more
upgrading the-
cameras.
the DVR.
So do you know how quickly that will be happening for us?
He was going to reach out today and get a
Right.
test up here. I'm hoping, he didn't sound like it'd take too long, hopefully here by the 1st of December.
Right, okay. Sorry, it's just hard for me to hear all the way down here, so sometimes I ask questions about things you've already commented.
No, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
And you said, what was the advantage then? I apologize, if you get the new bus that's 2,000 more,
No, that's for what we currently get.
That's what we currently have, the camera
The
system that
system.
comes with the bus currently.
God, oh, that was where my
You know, like-
confusion
That's where it's
was.
built
That's
in.
where my
Where it's built in
confusion
for
was.
the
Okay,
inside the bus and everything.
okay,
Yes.
I don't have a question then, because that now flips everything around. Perfect, thank you. Anybody
Okay, so
else?
we'll follow up on that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what did you just say, Larry? About, what did you just say?
Follow it up.
We'll follow
Oh,
up.
please do, yeah, that's, especially with 41 out here, that is such a major challenge to drive, so.
But we don't stop on
I was gonna say,
41.
we don't stop on major, yeah.
Okay, good,
No.
and do we still stop on 30 anywhere?
No.
No?
I don't
Okay.
think so.
So they've looked at all those routes and they've rerouted the dangerous
Hart Street's the
areas?
worst street in the
Yeah.
district.
Probably
Heard that
81st. 81st. 'cause
Marquette
of
is the
hills.
second worst street in the district,
Oh, gosh,
Really?
yes. Remember that young,
north and south from.
yeah.
Oh, I can see that. Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, my next item is also related to safety, and this is asked Officer Patrick to look into an idea the community member came up with, so I asked Jerry to come tonight and just share what he learned, and then open it for questions from the board.
Sure.
Good evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening, Jerry.
I just wanted to, I know we're going to go over some of the things that the community member brought to our attention program. Before I do that, I just wanted to go over just a little bit of review, just a couple of things, just reminders, really perhaps. So just as a reminder, our standard response protocol is the current protocol that we use in all of our schools. It's brought to you by the I Love You Guys Foundation out of Colorado. And just to remind everybody, if you have any questions, the beauty of this program that we brought in is very common language for everyone. There's a website that you can go to. It's called, the website is iloveyouguys.org. And when you go onto that website, anybody can go on there and you can actually download all the information on it. So all of our posters you see in our schools, all the training that we've done here within the corporation, all that information is on the website. So it's very convenient for all of us. Obviously, within that training that we provide to the teachers and the staff, there are other things that we do train everybody up on. That's more private to just in-house or just to the schools itself, to the teachers and staff. So we don't put necessarily everything out there as far as that safety protocol, but in overall, standard response protocol has 5 safety actions, which are lock down, lock out, evacuate, shelter, and hold. And then we kind of, we kind of go off of each one of those. We have, just as a reminder that, when we brought that in, 3 years ago, I believe it is now, we had not just our central office staff that was a part of that, but all of our administrators at all the buildings were all part of that training, as well as our local police and fire department. So all 3 towns were represented during that. So our chiefs of police, I believe at the time, were there. And so we were all trained up on that at Crossman, when we brought the trainer in from Colorado. I truly believe in it. I really do. I think that it's really coming together over the past few years. And of course, we always need to change things or better our system. But what we have in place right now, I think, is the best thing that we could have. So I really do believe in it. I think it's a great thing that we have going there.
May I ask a question real quick?
Yes.
Okay, so if this happens with a teacher with their classroom, how do they know the difference between a lockout and a lockdown? An individual, how would they know?
All of our
the
staff
difference?
are trained in those procedures, so they would be able to determine, through our training.
Okay.
So they carry this around with them?
Well, they don't necessarily carry it around.
Well, this
Train
doesn't
them.
say what the situations are though, so that's why I was
Right.
asking you, because
Yeah, no,
if they're
it's
trained
part of our-
separately
it's
though,
part of
okay.
our safety training that we do at the
Perfect.
beginning of the school year, actually, in the middle of the school year, all of our teachers are trained in this, yes.
Perfect.
They're all trained.
So substitute teachers, I mean, I assume we
Yes.
still have substitute folders and they're in the folders. But if I'm walking in the hallway and you come on the overhead and you tell me something, I guess my point, my concern with this, and I think it's probably got some good value to it, But I would worry about everybody that's in the building. So be it parents working in the whatever, maybe it's the music boosters, maybe it's the band boosters. They're not going to know what these mean. So I noticed the other day that they're not posted in the hallways at the high school, maybe in the other buildings, but
Some of the building areas, we do have them posted, and every classroom, they're in every classroom. We all have our safety poles in the classrooms.
I understand
in some of
that.
the hallways.
But I didn't see them in any of the hallways, so I would just encourage that to move to that next level, because everybody is important.
Yeah,
As
absolutely. And
adults.
even our substitute teachers are actually, they actually have to go through this as well. Before they're able to substitute, they have their little checklist that they have to go through. So they all are trained up. Every employee that has to deal with kids is trained up on our safety protocol. I just want to remind everybody also that, we have constant communication with the police and fire departments, with the schools. Obviously, with our SRO program, it's there obviously because we are the police department, we are in the schools, and we're always networking with all of our Tri-County fire and police chiefs, as well as the patrol guys are on the street every day. As a matter of fact, just a real quick thing about our SRO program. So currently, we have the 3 SROs in our corporation, with myself, Brian Kissinger from Dyer, and then Mike Moffitt from St. John. Next week, I'm happy to say that we are finally doing interviews for our Cherville SRO. That will be next Wednesday. We have members from our school, as well as the administrators for Cherville Police Department. We'll be interviewing 3 officers who have applied for the position. I'll be honest with you, all 3 officers are great guys. I've worked with them for many, many years. Any one of them would be an outstanding addition to our police, or to our SRO program. We're excited to have them. So Cherville will finally be adding to an officer. I'm not sure exactly when that will happen, but at least we have the process and we're getting it down now. So now we're finally getting it, and it's come a long way to get to that spot, but now we're finally doing the interviews next week. So we're really excited about that. I just want to update you all on that.
So all 3 of them are current Cherville officers, correct?
The 3 officers that we are that are applying, yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yep.
okay, thank you.
In the packet that I provided to the school board members, there is the update as far as the NRA school shield that I'm going to talk about in just a minute. There's also a form in there to check a safety checklist that Ms. Mucha was brought to our attention this school year when she came in. This is a checklist, a safety checklist that we're adding to our corporation plans for the corporation-wide as well as our each individual building. It's highlighted at the very top in everybody's packet there. This is a safety review, something that we're going to utilize, that we're utilizing at the beginning of the school year, and then we're also going to go back to that same checklist, and then we'll review that in January as well.
Okay, we're trying to find the checklist.
Yeah, you know what, at the very top.
Oh, it's at the top? Yeah, gotcha. Internal use only?
Yes, ma'am. All the things on that checklist we already have and actions involving all of those already. I think it's a good thing just as a reminder to put it to our corporation's safety package that we've got.
And who's responsible for doing these?
I believe it's going to be each building principal. Right.
Along with their
Along with,
secretary.
I was going to say, along with our deans and our school safety specialists that we got in the building, and the SROs.
Oh, she's got it. Sorry.
And then the last thing I just wanted to say is that as a corporation resource officer, I always encourage anybody in the community, staff members, even in the board members, if you guys have any questions, my ear's always open. I'm always open to the questions that people have. I get a lot of great feedback, or even questions I get from teachers. They have questions, and we go right to their classrooms or whatever it is. Please ask those questions. And that's the only way we're ever going to better our system or better our situation here in the schools. It's a forever changing world, and we always have to continue to change along with that. With that being said, one of the community members did bring up a program, and that's the other 2 papers that I gave to you guys. Each of you should have gotten up there. And that's the NRA School Shield Program, and that is the National Rifle Association School Shield. So I know that a lot of people are like, oh, National Rifle Association, it automatically assumes it's got to be some sort of gun control or, pro-gun or whatnot. It actually has really very little to do with that at all. It's just the NRA just happens to be the organization who stepped up and said, hey, we want to do something different. We want to to be proactive in the school safety awareness. And so I think it's a great program. I made contact with Mr. Brian Goldstein, who is their training manager. He's out of Virginia. Most of the trainings that they do are on the East Coast, but they can go across the United States. They're very open to going and traveling. But what this training is, it's to conduct a school assessment of your school corporation. Some people did think in the beginning that this program was one where they would come and do an assessment for you. Sort of like what our state auction or our state audit is going to do for us. That is not the case, okay? So this program does not do an assessment for us. They train us to do an assessment for ourselves, okay? That's fine. I think that's another great thing that we can bring to our school corporation.
Absolutely.
And so they do cover a wide variety of topics. That obviously is going to strengthen what we already have. And the best part about it is it's free. So the price tag is right. It focuses on threat assessment per an individual or per situational issue that's going on. They talk about, or another thing they really concentrate on is what we call CPTED. CPTED is crime prevention through environmental design. So anything that has to do with the building itself. So exterior or interior. So they go as far as like when they're walking the buildings, oh hey, we're missing a light here. We need more lighting over here. There's a tile missing over here. There's wires hanging over here. Those sort of things inside. But then the outside, they talk about, sidewalks that are busted up. Just again, lighting, signage, all these sort of things. So, Officer Kissinger and I have actually been part of that CPTED training already, as well as a portion of our school safety specialists in the state of Indiana. We've got 30-something of them in our corporation. So they've got a very small portion of that training, not the whole training though. Okay, so that's a good piece of it that I really truly do. I like that a lot. They also concentrate on traffic flow, technology. When I say technology, it's not just technology of like social media. Okay, it's not like threats through social media. It's more like, although they do talk about that, but it's more on the lines of what can we do technology-wise. So like cameras, door entries, and stuff like that. How do we utilize technology to help us out in all of our buildings? They go over policies, procedures, and then they really, really strongly focus on the communication between the schools and local law enforcement. Since this is my full year now in the schools, and I have to tell you that our law enforcement and school communication has never been as good as it is now. I have everybody's cell phone numbers. They all have my cell number. They have the chief's cell number. They got detective cell numbers. I mean, whenever we need to get a hold of somebody, it's just a phone call away, and we're right there to help each other out. I know that Mr. Newton and Mr. Doyle are in the attendance now, and we have like practically a substation at Taylor Middle School. So there's officers there all the time, and we hope that'll be eventually at all of our schools. I think it's a great thing. But all the schools have always been very welcoming of the police departments in all of our buildings. So something that also I really like about this training in particular is that they want to do the training during the school day. So let me back up just a little bit. There's two types of ways that they do the training. One, it's law enforcement only. They go to a pre-designated area somewhere pretty much up on the East Coast. And that would be for law enforcement only. So we would go out there, we would be trained. The training is free, but then we would have to pay for lodging and food and whatnot. But we also could be a whole site. Okay, so we could bring them here, and then all they would bring is their instructors, and we don't have to pay for anything. They're none of their travel, nothing. They would come here, and then they would put this on it's a 5-day course. And it's mainly all this training is mainly for law enforcement officials, but they do also let in school safety specialists, is what we have in Indiana. They also let in administrators who are in charge of our safety protocols, so they would also include them. So we've reserved already, or we've talked to them. I've talked to Mr. Goldstein about bringing them here, and they have a class of 20 to 25 people is going to be the class size. So we'd like to have them come here and do a training for us as well as our local agencies in the area. I talked to Dr. Branco and Ms. Mucha about making contact with them and bringing them and asking them to come in, and we all are in agreement that we really would like to have them come here. So, I was requested to get some multiple weeks of training. So I've already submitted that to them. I'm just waiting to hear back from them. Hopefully it'll be, but it will not be until the spring. Unfortunately, they are booked. All their training is booked through March of 2019. So it's going to have to be, sometime after April, May. But I think it's a great program. And I think that, again, I think that it will definitely benefit us. So what we already have, I think it's just going to strengthen the things that we've got in place.
Excellent.
Question.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Jerry, you're doing an outstanding job under your direction and leadership. You talk about law enforcement. We have Dyer, St. John's coming in as an SRO, and we're interviewing Cherville. Expanding beyond that, how about county for any of the training? Are they participants in any of the training?
Yeah, actually, county has representatives that come to us as well. We've reached out to, in particular, the E911 Center. So they have our safety protocols. They know our terminology that we use. Good. In case when we have to call 911, they have our terminology. They know exactly what's going on when we get that call. So they can dispatch that out to us. Lake County officers do attend our monthly meetings. So we have a safety meeting with the chiefs, every month, and county officers do come to that as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
Can I go next?
Oh,
All right, okay. You talked about the 20 to 25 people only. Was that for this whole session, or is that per day?
No, that's for the entire 5 days. So you have to attend all 5 days.
Okay, so if we can only have 20 to 25, did you say that's why you're having multiple weeks?
No. They just requested. So I didn't want to give them 1 week. This is the only week we're available, so I gave them 3 different options.
Okay, perfect. Next. Oh, my concern is with the size, because we're a tri-town area, 20 to 25 people doesn't leave much, That's only a couple people from each town, and then I don't even know if that'll leave space for administrators and things like that. Is this something that we might want to ask?
Well, he informed me that we can have 8 to 10 from our school, within our school, so I include that with the tri-town.
Oh, okay,
and then
perfect.
We'll push the other 10 to 15 out to neighboring agencies.
Perfect. And then my other question, you talked a little bit about threats through social media. Do we have a general, like if a kid posts something on social media, what do we do with that? Do you guys check that out? Do they go to the home? What happens without being specific?
I'll be honest with you, it depends on what we get. The last threat that we had, at Lake Central, I couldn't tell you. I know that Mr. Bailey talked a little bit about it, or someone talked about it before at a school board meeting prior to, but let's just say, just for instance, on the last situation that we had with a student threatening, with the guns on Snapchat. Mm-hmm. I personally had probably at least a dozen emails. I had police officers reaching out to me. I had parent friends reaching out to me. We had students reaching out through emails. So the response was great when we found out about it. So once we found out about it, we immediately act on it. Mm-hmm. So we don't wait until school's in session to investigate it. We go right to it right when it happens.
Right.
In that situation, we had the Tri-Town and Lake County Sheriff's Department all involved in this. So we had 4 police departments involved in that situation, and it worked. But we do have a threat assessment that we do. We do have a checklist sort of that we go through for whether it's like I said earlier, whether it's an individual or a situational thing. We have a threat assessment that we go through for each student in those scenarios.
So is including everyone something new then? Because in the past, I don't remember us always including someone.
It just dictates that, like who's involved in it. So if it's a Cherville case, then it'll be Cherville Police Department, and chances are it'll be myself and then Coco Mountain and Officer Kissinger involved.
Gotcha.
So when I say like other entities, I guess, because we have SROs from all the towns, we all are part of it. It's just a team effort.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Did you
Is that the safety audit also?
Thanks, Officer Patrick. No, the safety audit is a separate agenda item, and it is just an update on what the state is doing. And Steve Ulrich has been assigned South Lake County, and he has told me that he will complete our audit in the month of December.
Okay.
And then my final item for the evening is just to let the board and community know that we were happy to get an email last week from the Indiana Association of Gifted and Talented that they have named Teresa Schoen a friend of the gifted. And she will be honored on December 11th at a luncheon, and she'll be recognized for moving our high ability program forward, and so congratulations, Teresa.
Excellent. Congratulations.
And that's all for me for now.
All righty. Then we will be moving on to our Director of Human Resources and Personnel, Terry Mucha.
Thank you very much. We are recommending that the following classified, certified appointments, transfers, resignations will be approved.
Move to approve.
Do we have a second? I'm sorry, motion by Mr. Marshall. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Suze. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Just to give you a little bit more information on safety, we wanted to update you on one of the meetings that are done every year by Corporal Patrick and Corporal Kissinger, and they meet with the elementary and middle school secretaries, and they update them on the standard response protocol and go over to make sure they don't have any questions on that, the safe visitor procedures. We have a new checklist from Homeland Security on bomb threats that we're using, and we distributed to all the schools. And we also talked about any questions that they might have on safety. They do this every year. We just wanted to inform you that they had just finished that with the high school, with the middle school and elementary, and they'll be scheduling something with central office secretaries and high school so that they can answer those questions for them. And while they were in there, I just slipped in a couple of papers on residency and talked over the forms that you use for residency 1, 2, and 3 and the instructions from the IDOE. So we're all trying to do the same thing in all of our schools. So that was a productive meeting, AM and PM on a day, and we'll be scheduling the other ones soon. I did want to also tell you that last Wednesday and Thursday, many of our school safety specialists attended a somewhat gruesome workshop on teens killing teens, and also one on reunification for students. It was held in Maryville. It is one of the 2 days that we are required as school safety specialists to attend some kind of training. So some of ours go down to Indianapolis, and as long as they are approved workshops by the school safety specialists, then they can also go up here. So we have about 33 safety specialists in Lake Central schools, and they all attend 2 days of training, and we track that, Mr. Beck and I, on a Google Doc to make sure we all get that training in every year.
Nice. Excellent. Thank
So
you.
this is held every year locally?
There's always some workshops to go to locally.
This makes sense.
There's, they have some that are specifically for SROs, but they have most of them in the area that we can go to. So sometimes we go to Indianapolis because it's nice to get the variety of different things down there, and sometimes we do local.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? No? Okay.
I also get to introduce our high school AD, who's going to give us a report, Chris Enyard.
You have this in paper at your station, but just the fall report for the athletic programs at the high school. The first page is the numbers. Girls this year we had 125, so we went up 18 female athletes. Boys we had 234, which is down 2. We had some concern this year with numbers in Title IX compliance, just because we added a second JV team at the boys soccer level because there was a lot of kids that came out and high-end talent, and we didn't want to lose any. You can see in the numbers that our girls grew and our boys actually went down, and we added a boys team. This year we had 150 of 359 fall athletes that were called all A honor roll. It's a 3.66 GPA or higher. It's 42%. Even though cheer does do things in the fall, they'll be on the winter board report, so they're not in your fall package. DAC standings on the girls' side on the next page. Our cross-country team finished 4th, golf finished 1st, soccer 3rd, and volleyball 4th. All those increased from last year. They went up a place or 2. Girls tied for golf, like tied for first last year. This year they were outright first place. And then on the boys' side, cross-country was 6th, football was 8th, soccer was 2nd, and tennis was 4th. Postseason results, Girls cross country finished second at sectionals. They advanced to the semi-state where their season ended, and we didn't advance any runners, individuals or team, to the state meets. Girls golf, the team won sectionals. Unlike all the other sports, golf only has a regional and then state. The team did not qualify for state, but senior Dominique Colantuna qualified for the state tournament, where she was one of the 98 athletes that were there, so it was a great accomplishment for her to get there. Girls soccer won sectionals, and then they lost in the first round of regionals, 1-0. We gave up a goal with 6 seconds left in the first half, and then played even the rest of the way. And girls volleyball lost in sectional semifinals, a 5-set match that was very competitive with Crown Point. Boys cross country also took second in sectionals. I updated that, and then I must not have stated it right, but they advanced, they did not advance 2 members. That's wrong. So the boys, for some reason, I didn't save it. So here's a true thing for the boys. They got second to sectional, and they also, their team season advanced to semi-state and ended there. Football lost in sectionals. Boys soccer lost in the sectional semifinals. Those 2 are right. And boys tennis, they lost in the sectional championship match, not won this year. Or last year they had unseeded Crown Point. It's usually us and Crown Point in the finals most every year. Last year we beat them to stop like their run of like 18 straight sectionals, and then they got us this year 4-1. The next page talks about our income on the year. Gate receipts, we were down a little bit to $73,516. The breakdown for the 3 sports that we have is on a column to your right. Advertisement, as to date, we've collected $19,860. We have annually contracted out with agreements $56,850. A lot of them do payments for payments a year. Season passes was $11,733. That's the various different passes you can buy, whether it's a student, the punch pass, the all-season pass. For our senior citizens that live in the community, it's a $2 fee that basically just buys the card, and they get in every game after that for free. And then the next year, if they want to renew it, they just bring it in or call us, and we automatically roll it over, so it just carries on. It's just a one-time $2 fee to cover the cost of the card. Fall team fundraisers was $88,654.04. That's down a little bit just because last year's team fundraisers during the season did so well. So a lot of the coaches didn't ask as much in fees for the teams, and they covered that cost. So you'll see on the next page when we get to that the expenses for team fees and everything is more than that, but the teams will cover in what they can. Concessions was $7,390.75, and that's soccer and volleyball. IHSA, we got a check back from IHSA for girls golf of $1,275, and then we will be getting a check for football of about $3,000. Football is the only profit-sharing sport in the state tournament. What that means is in the sectionals, you host it, you put all your money together, and then you send 10%, you cover your costs, you send 10% to the state, and the rest is broken out by the 4 teams that are in it. The better the teams, the higher it gets. So, the athletic golf outing that was new this year, we raised $24,550.93. And what that's going to allow us to do is cover half of that $60 participation fee. On average, it's between $50,000 and $60,000 for us to, each year in the $60 because it's a fee per sport per athlete. So it just really depends on whether the numbers are up or down on how much that is. So we hit our goal. 50, if I said if we got to 50, we would cover it all one way. Whether it's out of my budget. So since we got close to that 25 mark, we're covering the rest, or covering half of what that is, which brings us a total of $225,712.72 for income this fall. Fall expenses, game workers and officials, we're at $37,708. 20,000 of that went to Event Pay. In the past, we used Arbor Pay. Now it's in one-stop shop for all of our schedules. The event link that you see the school calendars on, that has an athletic side where we can also now pay officials as well. So we put it all in one. The fall last year and this year is right at $20,000 just for officials. Field equipment and field maintenance, $18,367.88 I expense. The big ones on the last page, I was spending a lot of money to fix a really old mower. So I ended up spending, or you approved back early in the fall for us to purchase a new mower from Terpsters that was a little over $10,000. Equipment, team gear, and fees. Like I said, that's higher than what we brought in because coaches cut back on the fees that they charge the kids for gear and stuff and covered that out of their budget. So that was at $104,458.17. Training room and weight room. This is the half that I'm covering. So $15 of every athlete goes to the training room. $15 goes to the weight room. Training room also has the Gatorade machines that you see around that he collects the money on, and he doesn't make much money there, enough to buy some rolls of tape, but mostly it just puts buys the Gatorade and the bars and everything to put back in the machines for the kids to eat. We upgraded the weight room. We purchased a few more power racks and replaced a lot of broken plate weights that were just old and beat up. So we were trying to get away from the old metal ones and keep buying the rubber ones, or the rubber coated ones, so it's just a little safer and doesn't beat up on the floor when it's hit and dropped with different weight lifting maneuvers. So that was $25,037.41. The corporation transportation fee, that $30 fee that we're not covering is going into the Skyward account, a lot like the $100 corporation athletic fee, so they can pay for it online and their Skyward. We put it out. Told the coaches once we did it to put it out, and then we sent out a couple of email reminders to parents that it would be going to Skyward as well. Miscellaneous was $18,412.33. Most of that is hotels that the coaches go, when the teams go and travel, a lot of that is the hotels. We did have to order, we were running out of certificates and plaques, so we purchased a lot of certificates and plaques to get us through the year. But we also, office, flowers, tickets, and different coaches' fees and membership fees coming out of that account. Hospital and banquet, or hospitality and banquet was $10,647.19. Where $7,800 of that was the meal provided at the fall banquet from Lencioni's. So the total expenses this year were $214,630.98. So our goal is, if we're bringing it in, we're trying to spend it and put it out to the kids and for the community. So we're always trying to, whether it be upgrade our facilities, add little pieces, we're always trying to spend as much as we bring in, unless we're looking to fundraise for a special big ticket item, and then we adjust accordingly on our spending habits. The two big purchases this fall. The soccer sound system replacement, that was $6,618 that went in over the summer. We were able to save the speakers, so that saved me about $4,000. So we were able to keep the speakers, and that just pays for the box that's in there, and the couple of the wireless mics and system there. And then, like I said, the new mower from Terpsters was $10,703. That's it. Is there any questions?
Thank you, Chris.
I have a couple questions. So you said that we added a boys team, but our numbers are down too. So where did we lose numbers from?
Our numbers have been dropping steadily over my 4 years here in football. Okay. We have less and less kids coming out from football each year.
Okay. Do we know why? Do we know why that is?
It's the times. I mean, it's down across the nation. A lot of it has to do with the concussions that went through in fear of that. And so when the concussions and kids start playing other sports instead of doing football at a younger age, they end up liking it like soccer. That's why those numbers went up in baseball and all those. So those kids are still being active. They just aren't playing football younger, so they're finding other sports and they're sticking with those in the youth high school.
I had one other question. No, I'm good.
What kind of mowing deck? How big is the mowing deck on that?
It's a 72-inch deck, so it's a Turf Tiger 2. Basically, it's what we had before as the in the last year, I put over $5,000 into fixing it, and just little things kept happening and happening. When I can buy a new one for 10, it's not worth continuing to spend 5 when we had the opportunity.
So do you anticipate any problems with, Title IX, your Title IX numbers? I know you mentioned that.
No, I mean, that was something when we talked about adding the 13 with Mrs. Mooch and Dr. Baracco that we were watching. So the numbers increasing, for girls, even though we added 13 and going out boys, actually works in our favor this year. We're looking at ways, like whether it be intramurals and other things, to have some more opportunities for females to be participating in. Maybe not an IHSA sport that's in my office, but at least activities here at school.
What about a freshman softball team?
The biggest problem with freshman softball is there's nobody here that has it.
Competition.
There's no competition. We could have a team and we would end up playing 4 or 5 games of maybe some other JV teams that had some rainouts that ended up, getting a schedule. You could go across to Illinois where it's a little more prevalent. I mean, not so much a freshman team, it's usually a second JV team. It's usually a combination of freshmen and sophomores. But in our area, in the state of Indiana, there's nowhere to go play. I mean, maybe down in Indy, but you can't travel 2.5, 3 hours on a bus, all the time to go play the game.
Are there any other female sports you're looking to expand or to look into bringing here, or maybe bring into the middle schools to help bring our numbers up here?
Not at this time. What we kind of follow, what my kind of presiding factor is, I will govern the sports that the IHSA governs, because that's our big governing body. I do have cheerleading and dance, because they perform at almost all our events and all that. But when the IHSA adds a sport, which they keep talking about, but they like the fact that right now they have the same number of female sports offered as they do male sports. If you add just a female sport, you have inequity by not adding another male sport. Gotcha. I mean, the biggest one that gets talked around, bowling comes up a lot. The Bowling Association will talk to IHSA. Cheerleading is governed by the Principals Association. The one that I hear the most about from people is lacrosse. That's getting bigger.
That's my next question.
Right. So, but when the IHSA brings it in, that's when I think that's when we should look at adding that sport and facilities. Seeing if we can fit the facilities. If lacrosse comes here, I don't know where we can build a lacrosse field here, but we would try to figure that out. So, I mean, it's just, at that point it will become logistics of whether we can add it or not with the space that we have currently here, on site. If they bring like lacrosse in as just a female sport, I mean, the one that they talk about is, do they cut gymnastics? I mean, just because of the schools, the numbers are dropping in gymnastics because schools are either dropping the program altogether because of the equipment's expensive. Like you saw last year, we brought it in. We got used equipment. It was still almost $70,000 for us to bring a gymnastics room in here. So some schools don't have that budget. There's a lot of smaller schools, so it's mostly just big schools that have a gymnastics program. There's a handful of smaller schools.
So if we're not looking to advance or to add any sports, how are we looking to improve our numbers for girls' sports? How would we go? How are you looking to go about that?
Well, the reason we grew 18 was because we had more girls soccer players come out. Last year we barely could scrape the JV team together. This year we had no problem and had to cut a handful of them just because of numbers. So hopefully, those numbers can continue to grow, and then we can have a discussion of maybe offering the second, JV level at girls soccer. Unified track that is now an IHSA sport. They've had the state tournament, but they voted in to make it an IHSA sport. That will help our numbers because the majority of most of the students with disabilities at Park that are in it are male, but but then all of our partners, which are students without disabilities, are mostly female with 2 or 3 males. So it's another sport that we offer that helps that also works towards Title IX because, they look at, it's the numbers, it's not like Division I, it's not like college where if you have X number of scholarships in football, you need to find them all in that, or on the female side. High schools looked at it a little differently. It's about giving the kids the opportunity. So we provide those opportunities. As the hopefully, like I said, the numbers will keep growing in our sports. And then we, on the female side, and that helps. Gymnastics can be one. Like a Chesterton and Valpo will have 20 to 22 kids on their gymnastics team, where we put 10, where we have 10 or 11. So that's another way to grow numbers. And nobody wants to go back through an OCR review like we had a couple years ago and just got out of. So we keep trying to find ways to improve it. I have the freshman orientation night that all freshmen that are interested in any sport can come out. All my coaches are there. I speak about all the athletic rules, and then there's the opportunity for all the freshmen to come and their parents to go out and meet the coaches and talk about the programs. We'll send out emails across about the camps and everything. So a lot of my coaches are proactive, and they go out, to the AAU circuits and the travel balls and volleyballs and try to, be as involved and talk to the kids that attend Lake Central's feeder schools and try to keep building interest in the programs.
Thank you.
Chris, do you have any comments or thoughts on the current status of officiating across the board?
They need more of them. It's a numbers game. The officiating is getting tied into a lot of sports. Every year they're getting, the experienced ones are getting older, and but they're not bringing in many young kids. So that's where me and Mr. Begley met last year with Sandra Walters to try to partner up with the Indiana National Guard and try to get some of their young kids that are in the Indiana National Guard and try to get them interested in officiating. It's a fight because you have to be willing to do it, and if you're outside in whatever weather the school says you're playing in, for not a whole lot of pay, and sometimes the environment that you're going to, whether it be the state of the field, or the actual emotional environment of the fans, keeps you on. So you have to be willing to. You can't have rabbit ears if you're an official. Can't hear everything, or else you're gonna go mad.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good report, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move next to the Director of Primary Education, Teresa Schoen.
Thank you. My first item is to seek your approval of the field trip request that was included in your packet.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Marshall. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Malkow. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. No, opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. My second item is to share some information on our English Language Learners Program, and I've asked Liz DeVries, who is our ELL coordinator, to come and share the information, and I also have a little bit of info at the end of her presentation.
Excellent.
So she's doing it over there.
And you do have a copy of her PowerPoint at your station.
I just don't want to be in the way of the crowd. Mine now.
This one.
Okay, I'll go down.
Fine.
Whichever you're most comfortable. There you go.
All right, so this is just some information for our program. So the overview of our program, we have our director, which is Teresa, and she does the oversight and implementation of our federal and Indiana codes and regulations. Coordinator, which is myself, the daily implementation of the new state guidelines, which are changing very often. I'm in contact with some liaisons from each school to discuss our program, and then testing of the new students and some parent outreach. We also have hired a new ELL elementary specialist. She works to support our teachers in the elementary schools. She also tests our new students and does some parent outreach, and she works with our student groups at the elementary level. Most of our schools have a liaison, which is a licensed teacher that helps kind of with our program. Not all schools have them, but we do kind of work with them. And then the teachers are the ones that deliver the daily instruction to the ELL students with the accommodations listed on their individualized learning plan. And then the paraprofessionals also support in the classroom. So the first thing we do when we identify an ELL student is we look at their home language survey. That survey is totally geared toward the student. There are 3 questions on there. If a parent answers another language to any of those 3 questions, by law, we are required to test that student. So we screen the student. If they score a proficiency level of 4.9 or below, then they are eligible for our program. Once their eligibility is determined, a committee is put together, and that's the teacher, the principal, liaison, coordinator, and parents. All parents are invited to meetings. We meet and we develop an individualized learning plan. And then once that conference is held, the ILP, which is the individualized learning plan, will be put into effect immediately. And that's sent to every teacher that has contact with that child, from specials to classroom teachers. The annual test is done in the spring, which is called the LEAD Access Test, and every student is involved in that. In 2014, Indiana dropped we were using a program called Lost Links, and we decided to join the LEADA, which is the World Class Instructional Design and Assessment. It's a multi-state consortium, and we use all their assessments and scoring and reports and tools. And these are all the states that are involved, so the good news is it is expanding. So if we have a student, say, who comes from Las Vegas, we no longer have to screen that student and go through the whole process. We can take their information and incorporate that into ours and then tweak it a little bit if we need to. So LEAD Access, it starts with the assessment, and that is given to kindergarten through 12th grade. And those are the students that, like we said, were identified as language learners. We also have 5 standards. In the past, our ELL programs had many standards that were hard to tie into our curriculum. They've now narrowed it down to 5. Social and instructional language, language of language arts, language of mathematics, language of science, and social studies. So very easy to tie that into a language arts class or a science class, etc. And then the test forms are divided into 5 grade level clusters. Kindergarten are all on their own. Grades 1 and 2, 3 and 5, 6 through 8, and 9 through 12. They see a little bit of trouble with the 3 through 5 because it's a 3rd grader in an elementary school, but then sometimes a 5th grader is in the middle school. So they've talked about perhaps separating that, but nothing yet. So these are the different levels that we have. It actually goes to level 6, but those students are no longer considered in our program, so I kind of didn't put that in there. But as far as our level 1, some of the things that they're able to do is to respond to some simple communication tasks. Pointing, using body language, creating pictures. One of the things that we try to, make our teachers aware of is a student at a level 1 cannot take your 25-question test. But if you adapt that test to meet their needs, pictures are very important. Letting them point, maybe letting them orally answer some things. Level 2, they're beginning to respond. They can maybe label using some single words, some short phrases. Definitely answer some yes or no questions. Our level 3, they're able to understand and be understood. Grammatically may not be correct, but they're on the right path. Some simple sentences, they can give some simple explanations, restate some main ideas and supporting details. Our level 4s are able to use English as a means for learning in all academic areas, maybe some minor errors, but still part of the classroom. And then our level 5s can communicate effectively with various audiences, just like our regular students. So Lake Central currently has 331 students in our ELL program. 304 are receiving direct services. 18 are in the first year of monitoring, and 9 are in the second year. The state adopted a new program where they have now a monitoring stage, and that's 2 years after a student technically tests out, which is a level 5 or above. Those students in the monitoring stage can still be brought back into the program. Like I said, if you're a 3rd grader, by the time you get to that 5th grade, 6th grade area, it gets a little, so they've decided to let them in the monitoring program, and then they are allowed to be pulled back into the program. They have to be re-screened and go through the process again. This is a breakdown of Lake Central. Village has 23 students. Those are the different levels. Alternate is our special education program. They are still required to take the WIDA, but it's called the WIDA alternate. And so those are the different, we have one alternate at Village. Holman has 27 students. Those are the different levels, and on down. Lake Central, of course, has the most students in our program, being the high school, but Proxima has a very large number. For being an elementary, they have 46 students, and so we looked at giving them another paraprofessional to help them out in their program there. And those are the different levels at the top.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
You said that you looked at giving them?
We're in the process of hiring.
So we're in the process of doing that?
Yeah. So what I did was I made a comparison from 2017 to 2018. So in that number that I told you, the 331, all those students were not tested because some of them were new and et cetera. But for example, at Village, we had 15 students that took the test in 17 and also took it in 18. And out of those 15 students, 8 improved. So these are the different numbers. Holman, 17 students, 9 improved. Coley, 26, 10. Piper, 13, 3 improved. Craftsman, 39, 17 improved. Watson, 23 students, 9 improved. And so the total of elementary students tested were 133 and 56 improved. At the middle school, Clark had 20 students, 7 improved. River had 14, 5 improved. Taylor had 14, 4 improved. So 48 students, for 15 who improved. And then in high school, we tested 47 students, for 22 improving. So overall, students that we tested that were second-time testers, there were 228, 94 improved for a score of 59%. And like I said, that doesn't include our first-time test takers, and that also doesn't include our alternate students because their test is different, and they don't go by the same levels that we go through as far as improvement. So currently, Lake Central has 32 languages with students from over 35 countries. And as I said before, we service 304 students while we monitor 27. We do hold a parent night every night at the different schools where we invite the parents to come and learn about the program and ask any questions or any concerns that they'd like to discuss. And then the state of Indiana has now changed to ESSA. We used to do the No Child Left Behind, and now it's Every Student Succeeds. And the yellow part of that is that beginning with the 2017-18 school year, we're going to measure the growth of that student. So that student will be tested using the Access. And then the following year, we'll measure their growth. And what they're looking for is within 6 years, they'd like that student to be considered, exit the program. So we're looking at a 6-year span as to how much hopefully they've improved every year, and by that 6-year test. And then the schools will receive their points based on that percentage that either meet it or don't. And this applies to all students from kindergarten through 12th grade. And that's it.
So I wanted to give a little bit more information on ESSA, just to add to what Liz has shared. One of the things that came that Indiana has changed as a result of ESSA is previously ELL students that have not been in the country for a year were exempt from our state testing. That will change, or that has changed. They are required to take it regardless how long they have been here. The catch is that the first year, their performance counts only towards our participation rate. So their score doesn't count, just the fact that we had them participate in the test. Second year, their performance is counted towards participation and their growth. And then the third year, they're all in, participation, growth, and performance. Another thing from ESSA, Sarah's going to share a little bit more about the accountability plan and school letter grades, but I'll give you just some specifics on our English language learners. Part of ESSA is you have to have a long-term goal for student achievement for our language learners. And Indiana's goal is to have 70% of ELLs either achieve proficiency or their individual growth target on WIDA. As Liz reported, this year we had 59% of our students that met that goal. Obviously, we have some work to do. You also heard Liz tell you that we have 304 students that we're providing services for, and we have 2 teachers and 10 paras to do what is a pretty daunting task. So we're hoping to add more staff to help them out next year using our referendum money.
Liz, you've been in charge of this program for a number of years now. I don't know how many. We won't get into that. In your experience working with the program, have you seen any problems of acceptance of students, any social issues because they come in with English as a second language? Can you make any comments in that area?
I would say like complete opposite. In the elementary, they love those students. They
Right.
want to be the one. I'll sit by them out, that type of thing. Middle school, very accepting. High school is a high school. I mean, definitely I will find a group of students, hey, can he or she sit with you? Sure, not as, as the elementary, how they all want to run, but I think one of the big differences right now is it used to be that we would get students, say, from Hammond. They were ELL students, but they came speaking English perfectly, fine. Socially, it was the academic part of it. Now we're getting students from other countries coming in, walking in without a drop of English. So it's hard to kind of try to pair them with something because they don't speak the language. A lot of computer programs, a lot of phone programs that can help them communicate with each other. But as far as, they come in with not a drop of English.
We used to have some of the languages identified in a survey, and I'm not asking you.
I can get that.
No, it's not that crucial, but I always remember it struck me, we'd get students coming in that spoke only Farsi.
Right.
From the Near East or something, or something like that.
We have a pretty wide variety. Every time we go to conferences and we talk, they're shocked as to how many languages we have here.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
I have a question. On the one where it talks about the overall growth, we had 94 students that grew out of the 228, correct?
Yes.
That percentage is not correct. That percentage is 41%, because 94 out of 228 is not 59%. So these percentages are all off.
You're a math major, right?
Yeah, I know, and I'm sorry. So that was the first thing that popped out at me. 22 out of 47 is 46%. 94 out of 228 is 41%. And if you combine them, it's 42%. So I just want to let you know that those numbers are off. So, sorry to be the bearer of bad news. I'm happy with everything we're doing, and I agree with you. We've got lots of kids coming in with different ELL, where we're going to need different services.
I think that percentage doesn't include 64 or 6, though. You have to take away the 64, not including first, because 228 students took the test.
But I thought there was 331 overall, so if I add...
Not the first time. No, this 331 started in 2018 to 2019. This is from 2017 to versus 18. So if you take the 228 minus the 64 and minus the 6.
Minus the 64, okay, so minus 70. Okay.
And then...
Perfect. Let's see. That's probably going to be better then.
So Liz, with the change from Lost Links to WIDA, what are you liking that?
You know what, Lost Links was very social. It helped the students, with the wall, things like that. It didn't ever talk about academic things. With the WIDA, it's more of an academic test. It tests them, they have a science portion, they have a social studies portion, things like that. So I do like it better, it does help our students.
I always liked it too when I was in Alabama. I thought it made a lot more sense.
Yeah, they've been doing it for years.
I was happy when Indiana finally did make that transition. What is the #1 secondary language, which is their primary?
Right now, Spanish.
Spanish, what is
Arabic. And then all the other ones kind of, maybe a couple here, a couple there, but Spanish is still #1, then but Arabic took over. Serbian used to be #2. Arabic. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, but Teresa, this is where I'm confused, because I thought Teresa had said that things had changed and those were included now. Are those coming up? I'm sorry, that's where my confusion
I
is.
learn participation.
So that's where my confusion was. I apologize.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one, we're still not counting first year just for iLearn.
Because it's either growth or proficiency, and if it's only taken it 1 year, there's nothing to
That's where when you were talking about the first year, that's where my confusion was. I apologize. So I thought you had that up there showing us how many. That's why I was like, wait a second, where are these numbers? No, thank you so much for telling me, because like I said, that's where my confusion was. When she said that they were included, I confused the iLearn with this. That's where I was confused. Thank you so much. Percentages are perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks, Liz.
Thank you so much. That is your last one. Move on to the Director of Secondary Education, Sarah Castaneda.
Thank you, and I apologize, I don't have much of a voice tonight. For my first item, I am seeking your approval for the professional leave request as presented.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion by Mr. Marshall and a second by Dr. Malkow. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. For my second request, I am seeking the approval for the field trip request as presented.
Also so moved.
Also seconded.
Motion by Mr. Marshall, second by Dr. Malkow. Any questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
And then
Motion passes, sorry.
And then for my last item, I was just bringing to you the state letter grades for this school year as well as our federal letter grades. This is the first year where we got 2 of the letter grades because of the enactment of ESSA. The state letter grades were what the state wanted to keep, but the ESSA guidelines forced us to incorporate some other things. And at the state level, they really couldn't find a happy medium for what they wanted to do. And so that's why we're running currently with 2 different letter grades, which I know is confusing for all of us. For the state letter grades, the corporation was an A. Vibich, Coling, Homan, Pfeiffer, and the high school also were A's. And Protzman, Watson, Clark, Kaler, and Grimmer were B's. Across the state, roughly 64% of schools received an A or a B. So we were very happy to see that our schools fell in line with that as well across the district. There was a cheat sheet that was in the board packet. At the elementary and middle school at the state level, it's half and half for performance and growth. At the high school level, it's 20% for performance, 20% for growth, and then 60% for something that they call multiple measures. It looks at graduation rates as well as college and career readiness. As we've talked about in previous years, we're very fortunate at the high school that they've done things to expand our AP classes dual credit, and so that's something that always helps carry us well with the school letter grades in regards to that. And the corporation grade is, again, the performance, growth, and multiple measures. For the federal letter grades, Vibich, Coling, and Pfeiffer were an A. Holman, Watson, Clark, Kaler, Grimmer, and the high school were a B. And Protzman was a C. Again, the federal letter grades are based off of ESSA. ESSA uses growth and performance as well, but as Teresa and Liz just mentioned, they also look at our English language learners, and they also incorporate some information regarding attendance. About 67% of the public schools got the same letter grade for both the state and the federal ones. And then there was a cheat sheet in the board packet as well for how those are calculated. At the elementary level, progress and academic achievement are weighted equally, and then there is 10% given to English language proficiency, which is the growth on the WIDA test. And then addressing chronic absenteeism, that can be met in a couple of different ways, either just by a student being here for 95% or more of the time, or if the student is improving on their attendance from the previous school year. At the high school level, the academic achievement is in there, as well as graduation rate and college and career readiness, and then also that progress on the English language learners. Teresa and Liz already went over the ESSA and WIDA guidance that goes into that score. ESSA also brings back the subgroups, and I had sent the individual school report cards to you in a previous email while they were embargoed. The subgroups really don't impact the overall letter grade, but if you have more than 20 students in a category, it does give you a grade for different race, ethnicity, free and reduced, and special education populations, as well as your English language learners. And that's meant to help your schools look more closely at those different subgroups, which is similar to what we had when we had No Child Left Behind intact. Protzman Elementary School, as was mentioned, is the only elementary school with 20 or more students that are in 3rd and 4th grade, which is what counts for accountability. So I know Liz showed you up there that we have several elementaries that are above 20 overall students, but remember, for accountability purposes, they're only looking at 3rd and 4th graders. And again, as we've mentioned, with only 2 ELL teachers within the district, that's something that I think is a hindrance with the growing population at Protzman, which is then feeding into Kaler, which is then also feeding into the high school from all the other schools. So I know that one of the things that we are heavily looking at for that referendum money is adding a 3rd ELL teacher, so that way we can help better support those students. Any questions? And I apologize for my voice.
No, it's not your fault.
Just the last one about the IDOE put out a proposal last week to change it. What do you mean by that?
In Dr. McCormick's weekly update, she is going to go back to the State Board of Education to try to revamp the grading system. I think we all realize it's a bit crazy being under a 2-letter grade system. So she's trying to make some proposals to make the grading system more fair and also try to find a way for us to meet ESSA and just have it happen in one letter.
Together. Okay.
So as we get more information about that, we'll let you know.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Moving on to the Director of Special Education, Becky Grimala.
My first item is to seek your approval for the professional leave request that was included in your packet.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Seuss, second by Mr. Marshall. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
And then my next item is to share some information about our new monitoring system that the Department of Ed is putting in place. And I handed out a PowerPoint presentation to all of you. This was, while it's dated October 25th, it was just pushed out to directors around the state on the 16th of November. So we're not having a lot of time to react to this information before we get our results, which I'll share with you in a little bit. So previously in the world of special education, we were monitored primarily on our compliance. So were we meeting our state timelines and following the laws? And they are shifting right in line with what you've heard already about our school letter grades and ESSA, shifting more towards results for us. So the focus is going to be on results-driven accountability. If you look on the second page, it shows you what they will be monitoring now. So 20% is our data, 30% is our compliance, so those old compliance indicators that we followed, and then 50% is actually based on student results. So if you flip on the results domain, that's on the next page, and it gives you a pie chart on how that's broken down. Of these categories, the least restrictive environment monitoring is not new. That's something they've been doing for the past 3 to 4 years. So we're used to that bit of monitoring, and we've done a lot of work locally on that. The other areas are new. So the 10% in preschool will be focused on our growth. So students who receive preschool services from us, their growth from when they start to when they leave. Our graduation rate, which is a little bit concerning for me because of the new graduation pathways, and there's not a clear pathway for some of our students with special needs, especially with the emphasis on them passing and attaining those passing scores on some of those assessments. So that's something we are going to have to work on. And then assessment is based on our ISTEP and ISTAR scores. The nice thing is they are giving us credit for both, similar to what we heard with ELL, growth and proficiency. So we will have some recognition of growth for some of our students. So that's explained some more on the next page. The compliance domain, you'll see my notes on the pie chart for compliance because they listed the indicator numbers. And I assumed that most of you were not very familiar with those. This area is not a big concern for us. We have not had an issue with this in the past several years. Every year, Dr. Baracco and I receive sort of a report from the Department of Ed, and we've been within the meets expectations category on compliance for the past, at least since I've been director. So we will expect to continue on well there. The data domain was added because the Department of Ed has a difficult time getting timely reporting from school districts. So they are now going to monitor us on our submission of these reports and whether or not we meet those timelines. Again, this has not been an issue for us in the past. My office coordinates with Teresa Scherzinger, who does all of our report submissions, and she works really well with my 2 assistants who assist her with that. So all of our information is submitted on time, and I don't have any concerns about that. The next pages are just a sample of what this is going to look like. So it appears from this that they're going to be comparing our scores to the state average in each one of these areas, and then assigning a numeric value to that. That's what it looks like from this. What we were told at the end, this was a YouTube video that they emailed out to all us directors and superintendents, and what we were told at the end of it was that we would be issued our findings this week, and then sometime in the future, we would get some explanation on where the exact sources of data came from. So things like our least restrictive environment, we don't know if that's going to be based on the report we submitted last December, or if they're going to access our IEPs at a certain date this school year and look at what our placement numbers are. So there's still a lot of questions about that. So this just gives you a sample. I will share our information when we receive it. Like I said, we're supposed to get that sometime this week. I was kind of hoping I'd have it today. So I could bring it tonight, but I'll get that probably at the next board meeting. I'll share with you what that looks like. And then the Department of Ed is planning what they're calling data retreats with regional meetings throughout the state, so they can help us dig into this data and figure out what this means for our district moving forward. Any questions?
Any questions?
Yes, I have a very important question. Tell me. On this page right here, the compliance domain.
Yes.
That isn't your printing there, is it?
That is my printing, yes.
That is.
I've been told I have nice handwriting, so thank you.
Oh my goodness. I thought, oh my goodness. I always admired that with the primary teachers, that they could print like that. Oh.
Becky, I have a question. Yes. How Teresa talked about for the ELL that there are students that are not counted, the first year students are not counted. Do we have any students in the special ed domain that are not necessarily held to this, or is everybody?
Everybody participates. So they will either participate in iLearn or our alternative assessment, which this year is changing from iStar to IAM. Mm-hmm. And so they look at our participation in that. But what we don't know is, there's an idea in the state that you shouldn't have any more than 1% of your students participating in that.
Right.
We are over that every year, so I'm not sure if being over that 1% will be an issue for us. But locally, we have parents of students with significant disabilities who move to our district for our programming.
Right.
So our numbers are skewed a little bit there. So again, there are a lot of questions around this, and I've talked with some of the directors in the area, and we all have the same questions. So we're a little frustrated that this was pushed out to us on a Thursday, and then we're getting our ratings this week without any time to, and without any better information on what exactly it means. So we'll all learn together.
So is this Miss Sarah right here, is she like the director of the special ed department? Or?
No, she is what they call a specialist. So our state director, her name is Nancy Holsapple, and she's new this year. But then they have different specialists within the department who focus on different areas. So Sarah Larison is relatively new. We've had some turnover, just like in every other department in the DOE. So she's not one that I've worked with very much, but she was really responsive. I asked for a copy of this presentation this morning, and she sent it to me so I could share it with all of you. So.
And when you get a better understanding of this, will you go through it again? I mean, I'm kind of struggling to make sense of all this.
Yeah, you and me both.
Okay, all right.
But yes, when I get our specific ratings for Lake Central, I'll bring those back and we'll walk through it again.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, Lord. Excellent. Thank you so much. Moving on to Director of Facilities, Bill Ledger.
Thank you, Mrs. Lesatine. I have a couple updates tonight. Since we last met, I told you that the NIPSCO crews were coming back from hurricane relief, and they have come back, and they did finish the upgrade at Holman. The new lines have been run and terminated. The only thing they have left, they had to bust out a little bit of the transformer pad there to get the new lines and the new conduit in, but other than that, they'll fix that as soon as the weather permits. So that piece of the project is all done with NIPSCO.
Excellent. Thank you.
The next update is the update on the maintenance building. It's coming right along despite all the crazy weather we've been having on the outside. All the site utilities are done, all the site work is done. We actually paved during the snow flurries and got the pavement done. And last Wednesday, we started the landscaping, and all the maples are planted, all the evergreens are planted, and we did get the seed down in the detention ponds, and we actually delivered all the other plants, but now with the snow, and now it's got to dry up, so we're just waiting until the ground freezes a little bit, and we'll try to get the rest of that done. And we do have to do the gutters and downspouts, and he was scheduled to come out last Thursday, but we know we had all that snow, so he's waiting for a good day as well. But that's the only thing left on the outside. The inside, all the slabs are poured. We should finish all the interior framing tomorrow. All the insulation is on the walls, and the electrician is probably 90% roughed in. The plumber will be done roughing in Wednesday, and the HVAC, they started today, so we're going right along. We're hoping to be done by winter break. The biggest thing we have is working with NIPSCO, and that's very weather related, so that's where we are with that.
Any questions or comments for NIPSCO, for his part with the NIPSCO or the maintenance building?
No, thank you.
All right, excellent. For our next one, Rob James, our Director of Business Services, is not here, so Mr. Bill Ledger and Dr. Vracko will be taking his portions of the agenda.
Thank you again, Mrs. Lessentine. I guess I'm up on the first one. Mr. James requests your approval to attend the IASGO School Finance Issues Seminar in Indianapolis on December 11th, 2018. This seminar will give updates on the state of Indiana's fiscal conditions, ESSA reporting, and other fiscal matters.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Marshall.
Second.
We have a second by Dr. Malkow. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye.
Mr. James,
motion passes.
Okay, the next item on his agenda is seeking authority to do tax anticipation warrants. Again, this is money that helps us with cash flow. It's standard practice in schools that you build up some extra cash in your funds in the event that the county or the state would not make a timely payment to you. People have bills to pay, and we need to have that cash on hand. So for the past 8 years, we've been doing these TAWs through the Hammond Bond Bank. If you remember, we used to do it through the Indiana Bond Bank, but the Hammond Bond Bank allows us to do it once a year instead of every 6 months. So it saves us some fees there. They also give us better rates than what we used to get through the Indiana Bond Bank. So the resolution authorizes Lake Central to issue tax anticipation warrants to meet current expenses for referendum debt service fund, exempt pension debt service fund, and operations fund for 2019, and the administrator recommends the board approve this resolution.
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Marshall. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Suze. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Resolution passes.
Thank you. His next item is to have an adoption of an appropriation reduction resolution. As Mr. James shared at the November 5th board meeting, we are seeking board approval for an appropriation deduction for our general fund, capital projects fund, transportation fund, and rainy day funds. As we've discussed in the past, with the DLGF's goal of setting budgets by December 31st in upcoming years, we will likely be doing this every year around this time. In a nutshell, unless we have the board take action to reduce the appropriation, the DLGF may assume that we spent this money already and then not allow us to spend it next year. So it's a legal maneuver to allow us to take unencumbered funds and push them forward to the future. In total of all those funds, it's $1.35 million. We do, by law, have to hold a loose form of a public hearing to allow any taxpayer in the audience to be heard regarding their opinion regarding these reductions. So we'll pause now for a moment to see if anybody has a comment about this appropriation reduction. Hearing none, the administration recommends the board approve the appropriation reduction resolution.
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Ms. Suze. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Marshall. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Mr. James's next item is to seek your approval to accept the donations as submitted within your board packet tonight.
So moved.
We have a motion by Dr. Malkow. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Seuss. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Am I up again?
Teacher appreciation grant. Is that you?
Okay, teacher appreciation grant. On November 15th, we received our distribution for 2017-2018 for the state of Indiana's teacher appreciation grant. This year, the school corporation received $279,154. Last year, we received $280,305. Most of our certificated employees who had a full Lake Central RISE evaluation were rated effective or highly effective and are still active LCSC employees. Those individuals will receive their direct deposit on Friday, December 7th. We're not seeking board permission to distribute those funds because it's law. The money was given to us by the state of Indiana, and we are expected to distribute it within X number of days. Mr. James and his department will get that done on December 7th. The Indiana General Assembly modified the law during the 2017 legislative session to exclude non-classroom certified staff from being eligible for the grant. This includes guidance counselors, deans, administrators, school psychologists, education tech trainers, assistive tech coordinators, etc. The administration feels these employees are just as valuable to the success and achievements of our students as those in the classroom. Therefore, as we have in previous years, the administration is seeking the school board's approval to use general fund money to pay a stipend to these aforementioned employees in the amount equal to the stipends being paid from the teacher appreciation grant. Although we do not have the final calculations at this time, since the grant allocation to Lake Central was very similar to last year, Mr. James expects the cost to be similar to the $36,000 cost for last year. So he is seeking board approval for that expenditure of an equivalent appreciation grant to those people who are not defined as teachers by the General Assembly.
And they all had to earn an excellent, you said? Is that what that was?
Effective or highly effective.
Effective or highly effective? And does that mean that pretty much everybody, all of our counselors and deans and administrators earned this? No, I know that, but I'm just saying, I'm looking at the list.
Everyone on the list is either highly effective or effective.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there is anyone not on the list. I did not ask Mr. James that.
Okay.
I can speak from the administrative team. Other than the superintendent, I haven't got my evaluation yet. There are no need improvement among the other administrators.
Okay.
So moved.
We have a motion by Dr. Malkow. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Seuss. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Mr. James's last item is an update for the summer school reimbursement. We held summer school here at Lake Central this year. Our total cost was $416,711. Out of that $416,711, we could claim to the state $400,153. We were not allowed to claim $16,558. This is basically payroll taxes and benefits the state does not let you claim those items. So basically, we got out of that money, we got $326,475. This is basically 82% of the dollars we could claim. Everyone across the state got 82%. This was basically a pie grant, and whoever applied, they divided it up, and everyone got 82%. Rob wanted to make sure we pointed out that basically that was a difference of, by the way, that was a difference of $73,678 based on the total we could claim and what we got. So we had to incur those costs, plus the fact we could not claim the payroll taxes and benefits. So basically it was, when you do all the math there, it's basically, we got reimbursed for 78% of our costs. So it cost Lake Central $90,236. Basically, and that's, like I said, that's across the board. 82% was everyone in the state that held summer school. You apply for it in the spring and with the pie grant, and usually, as per Rob, it's usually a little less than that, but then people pull out because smaller districts can't afford the payroll taxes and everything else, so they once they get the percentage, lots of those smaller districts pull out, so the percentage goes up just slightly.
question.
Go ahead.
So
Go
did-
ahead.
Did I hear you correctly to say that 82%, but then by the time they take away the taxes and the benefit payments, it's 78%?
Yeah, we are not allowed to claim payroll taxes and benefits toward the state, that's correct.
You know, that's a better percentage than I remembered in past years, but is this,
Well, there for a while, we were getting 105%.
yeah, but I mean in the past years. But is this elementary, middle school, and high school?
Yes.
Okay, all three. Okay.
Any other questions? All right, then we will close that out, and we will go to public comments, which we have two. First community member that's going to speak is Daniel Rising.
Hello, Daniel Rising, 14902 93rd Avenue, Dyer, Indiana, zip code 46311. I just wanted to thank you guys, board members, and Officer Patrick for looking into the program as I kept bringing it to you. I am extremely pleased that we will be further looking into that. I thank you guys for that. Just one thing that I wanted to mention to you guys, we have 2 years to look into it, is a couple of the other school districts in the area, they don't hold schools in session when they do the voting in the buildings. I was wondering if we could, there's 2 years to do it, look into either moving fall break up or backwards, or doing an E-day or a grading day, just something to mitigate anything that might be there. I know that it's been done for years this way, but if somebody that's seen that it's been done for years that way might come up, you can't trust crazy people. So just something to think about. There's 2 years to look into it, but I wanted to mention it to you guys because I am, as I said, extremely happy that we're looking into the SHIELD program, and I thank all of you.
Excellent.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Daniel.
Do you want to comment on that,
I didn't know if you want, I didn't know if.
We've done a couple of things
say,
to look at
yeah.
that. Number one, Dr. Bracco, I think, is talking to the election board to see if they will still be in the schools, which is something.
After consolidation, we're pretty confident, though, they're going to evacuate Bibbich. They only have 2 precincts there now. We're really, as a district, we're not uncomfortable with them voting over here on the side of this school, and we are not uncomfortable with them at Protzman because it's a separate door to a separate room. Other people don't even like people being in the parking lot, so that, an elementary school is still up for debate. But we have our calendar approved for next year, so it requires us to do some adjustments to it, but Mrs. Mucha went to discussion today for the following 2 years about moving that fall break.
2021 and 21 and 22, and it still is in the process. Of course, it was only our first attempt that we all took today to discussion would be moving our fall break to those first 2 days in November, and for the years of 20 and 21, it would actually work out okay. Instead of having a Thursday and Friday fall break, we'd have a Monday and Tuesday. That would serve 2 purposes. Number one, elementary people wouldn't have all the children in their buildings with candy in them after Halloween. And number two, they would be gone then for the election day.
Okay.
So
I vote at Bibbich, that's where my precinct is, so that's really the reason I asked, because Bibbich is strange. I don't know what it looks like anywhere else. That was just always kind of weird for me with the accordion gates and that.
So we're kind of looking at it from a couple of different ways, but you're right, we're not. It is a concern, it's a safety concern.
And the spring's easy to take the day off because, you're not up against trying to get a semester in by Christmas, so going till the end of May it doesn't cause anybody any heartburn. So yeah, we're taking a long look at that. As we do with the calendar every year, though, we do discuss it with our teacher leaders. They have a lot of input into it in light of the fact that this is based solely on safety. I'm pretty confident we'll get it accomplished.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Our next speaker is Christy Hussey, parent in our community.
Christy Hussey, 8650 Kelly Drive, St. John, 46373. I was also with the voting safety. That was one of my remarks, because even though Protzman does have it doored off, some crazy, unless it's bulletproof, someone can come in there and shoot up, and that's right there at the cafeteria. So that was kind of my concern, and also other parents that I've spoken to about it, because they're like, it's kind of crazy that the kids are still here at school. And speaking of where they walk in for voting, I don't know if anyone has ever walked in there. That's also a venture club for the students, and my daughter goes there, and there's no light above that door. So literally the people that are working for a venture club are like trying to make sure it's an apparent. And that's kind of scary also, knowing that my kid's there and other kids are there, and there's no safety precaution on the outside, even a light.
You're not talking about on election day now, you're just talking about every day.
In general.
Day during school. I appreciate that. And also, my daughter brought up the fact that all the doors inside are now locked. I don't know what's up with that, but she was in library last week and there was a substitute, and you know, now all the doors are locked. I just asked her again, I woke her up to ask her.
Oh, she's
under
not yet there with the coat.
And she said that she had used the restroom and the substitute did not know where the key was literally out of the room. That's kind of scary. If there's a fire, how are these kids going to get out? So I don't know if that's just something to look into, because she said now all doors are locked inside classrooms, everything, which is I'm fine with, but people need to know where keys are.
Right.
So I don't know if that's...
I didn't think those doors locked on the inside.
I didn't either. I've never heard, I thought they
If
were
she went to the bathroom, she might not be able to get back in, but
No, she
without
had to
knocking.
wait till she left the library with her whole entire class, and she had to ask her teacher, like beg her teacher, she's like, I have to go to the bathroom. So I don't know if this is something like the substitute didn't realize what's going on, or...
Because that doesn't seem, they should be able to have.
You can always get out. It's not, it's getting in that you can't do.
They couldn't get out, is what the substitute said. She didn't know where the key was and let her out
What, the classroom?
of the library.
Did you?
Oh, the lights. No, those are panic bars.
They have the push.
Yeah, it's a
So I don't know if
panic.
they locked it and she didn't know.
No, it's a panic bar.
Okay.
Because she said that the librarian said that the doors were locked, she couldn't get out.
Is it, Kathy, that's a panic bar, right?
Yes, you can get out of all of our doors, you just,
Yeah.
they're locked for safety so they can get in.
And
all of our subs.
I can't wait to ask the next question.
All of our subs, I mean, whatever rooms they are.
But she's like, I don't know where the key is, I don't know if she just placed it, but that's kind of scary. It's not like, well, someone could just randomly get the keys. But this is all right. But why are they locking? She said that all the doors are locked.
No, the library locks when you shut the door, so you can't get in, but you can always get out, so
But
panic
she even
bar.
said, like, the classroom doors are
locked.
Yeah, that's,
right outside. They're so like.
60.
So no intruders. Okay.
Right.
She's like, that just started, so she, I was like.
I don't think it just started.
no, that's steady process.
We want to do this. We actually should be thanking you.
You can always get out.
Okay.
You always-
You can get out of all of the doors.
So the substitute told her she could not go back, and she did not know where the key was. And she was at.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
The library, it's got a panic bar, yeah. It doesn't lock inside.
And then you're going to look into the light outside the bedroom.
Yeah, no, she said.
Perfect. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. You too, you too. So the next will be board comments and consideration of future agenda items, starting with Mr. Marshall.
I had an opportunity to attend Kaler's Armistice Day program this year. It's been a couple of years since I've been back. Unfortunately, I can't make a lot of them, but it was an excellent program, as all our schools have during that period of time. I just want to remark on that.
Dr. Malka?
Concurring what Mr. Marshall had to say about Veterans Day programs. Always enjoy them very much. Wanted to let everybody know that we finally did it, and we earned money through a lot of effort over the last 4 years, and so we have built a Veterans Museum at the Tri-Town Safety Village. We're having the ribbon cutting ceremony on December 8th at 1 o'clock. For those of you that are familiar with what Tom Clark has in his room, a lot of that is being moved to the Safety Village. and it will be in the Veterans Museum. It is so beautiful. I tell you what, Mr. Tomjanovich, who used to teach building construction here, was a key person involved with it. And also all the labor unions in the area volunteered at free labor. So we're very, very proud of that. If any of you would like an invite, I have some up here for you. And I must say that I was walking around Lake Central the other night, and I was so impressed. I heard all this noise coming from the cafeteria, so I checked into it. And it was the Campus Life group. So I thought that was really neat that we're holding that in the evening. And then I walked down the hallway and I hear all the kids screaming and yelling from the old gym, and it was the intramural program. So as Chris was saying, I think he's gone now, but there was a lot of females there in that intramural program. So that's a good thing. That's it. Thank you. Have a good Thanksgiving.
Excellent. Mrs. Seuss?
I just, also the veterans programs that I attended were awesome. Congratulations again, Teresa Schoen.
Thank you.
On your award, and yeah, happy Thanksgiving to all.
All right, so my comments are just going to be ditto. I'm good. We're turning it over to
All
Dr.
right,
Bracco.
well, it's getting late, so we will be back here only once in December, as we traditionally do, and that's scheduled for the 17th. Board members, watch your email for an executive session or two, though, before that.
Yes.
Okay. Move for adjournment.
We have a motion by Mr. Marshall. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Seuss. All in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Hey, Liz.